Hello you amazing people, welcome back to RXMemes. We're going to be doing some brand new r/ProRevenge that was just posted today, so hopefully you haven't heard any of these stories yet. If you like this kind of content, I would love to have you here, and let's get right on into it. Threaten me, you pay, one way or another, posted by user/deadlygerbil. I used to work for a company that rented furniture and appliances with no credit checks. My job was to get renters to make their payments or, if they couldn't, arrange to have them return the products. The place where I worked was fairly remote. We basically served 4 small towns, 2 of them 2 hours drive away from the store. One of the towns was located next to a state prison, so many of our customers were ex-cons who needed to furnish their homes for cheap after getting out. Most of them were good customers, but enough of them tried to use scare tactics that I quickly got inured to them. We also had a customer who was a sheriff's deputy. He liked renting stuff because it meant he and his wife could redecorate whenever they wanted. One day, a guy comes in and buys an expensive leather living room set for cash. When the guys deliver it, they saw that he had a huge brand new house on several acres of land. Knowing this, the next time he came in, this time to rent, my manager let him rent pretty much an entire house full of stuff. He never made a single payment on it. He lived in one of the towns 2 hours away, so I had to try to collect over the phone mostly. I kept expecting him to change his number, but he never did. Instead, he'd answer his phone and curse and threaten me, asking if I knew who he was. I didn't, but I found out a couple months later. This guy was the #1 drug dealer in his little town, so we'll call him DD from here out. It was a pretty open secret, so we heard this from several other customers. Now, this wasn't just about the money and my collection numbers. The guy had threatened me. Normally when this happened, I'd just drive to the person's house, which was usually a trailer, to call his bluff, knowing that our delivery truck could crush a trailer if things turned violent. It never did though. That wouldn't work on DD, since his house was brick and surrounded by a brick wall. So I formed a plan. The next time our deputy customer came in, I asked him if he knew of DD. I did not explain why, but the deputy probably suspected that DD owed us money. He said he didn't know DD, but he could check if the guy had any outstanding warrants. That seemed unlikely since DD was pretty easy to find in that town, but I said sure, check for me. DD had a bench warrant for a failure to appear in a court for a traffic ticket. The deputy asked if I had DD's address and I gave it to him. Our contract specifically said that we could release customer info to law enforcement in the event of a non-payment, so this was not illegal or a violation of policy. The deputy couldn't get a search warrant for a traffic violation, but he could wait until DD left his house, pull him over, and arrest him. Unfortunately, DD didn't leave home often, and the sheriff's department was spread too thin to stake him out for the time required to catch him. Plus, since DD's house was on the outskirts of town, it would be hard for the cops not to be seen anyway. I was going to have to give the cops a little help. I started letting customers from that town know that if they saw DD and let me know, I'd give them extensions on their payments. I was allowed to give 2-week extensions at my discretion, and people always liked being able to put off their payments. It took less than a week before someone saw DD going into the town's only movie theater. Perfect. I called the deputy, let him know, and he had plenty of time to get there and catch DD leaving. Since DD had a warrant, the deputy could arrest him on the spot, and an arrested suspect was automatic probable cause for a search of the whole vehicle. Naturally, the cops found drugs in DD's car, which got them a warrant for his house, where he had tons more, and DD went to prison. Since there was stolen property, our stuff, in the house when they searched it, the cops called the rightful owners and allowed us to collect it too. Don't want to help us? We'll make you do your work for free then. Posted by user/someoneelsetv. Apologies if this story does not belong here. I'm open to suggestions if anyone thinks there is a better place for this. Also, forgive my spelling and grammar errors. Anyways, so this story happened over 20 years ago. For a bit of context, my father, for most of my life, flipped houses in pretty poor and bad neighborhoods. He grew up in bad neighborhoods, and while he managed to climb out of it, he was pretty comfortable in those areas, and as such was able to buy properties no one else was willing to invest in for cheap. Now, most of these houses were all kinds of messed up. I've seen everything from entirely burned out houses, ones where addicts have been using a floor for disposing needles and feces, found homeless people, infestations, buildings entirely looted and gutted for pipes, houses split in half where one is falling away from the other, etc. If you can imagine it, him and I have probably seen it at some point. Anyways, the point is coming to these houses, there is a lot missing, looted, or just plain destroyed, and crime can be common in the local areas. So one day, my dad picks up this new property, gets everything ready, and wants to start working. Only problem is there is no electricity. One thing that was damaged on this property was the electric meter. From the looks of it, someone really wanted to destroy that thing because we found it on the ground messed up as if someone took a hammer to it, which given the state of the house wasn't too unlikely. Everything in it was basically looted or damaged in similar ways. Anyways, so we called the utilities company to get a new meter to start our work. Given it was under new ownership, this normally isn't too hard. But for some reason, the person at the utilities company assigned to us would not have it. First, they ignored our calls and emails for weeks. Then, when they finally responded to our request, they gave us a whole runaround saying it would take them a few months to even send out a technician, which we didn't really need. All this time, we have been trying to do repairs using a small generator, which is pretty inconvenient. But we wait and accept their terms. Technician comes and pretty much states the obvious.
You guys need a meter.
And charged us just for him to tell us the thing we had told the company for weeks now. But at least we complied. So we think it should be easy now to get a meter. We call back and it's the same person. Once again, they said it would take weeks or months, then they started to say we would need to file permits, many of which didn't exist or were not necessary at all. Also, that we needed to pay for damage to the old meter, which again we aren't liable for since it wasn't us. And then she wanted to charge us a ridiculous price for the meter. Then they said it would take multiple days of work for it to be done, which is definitely not true either. After about a month of compliance, my dad had enough. It was obvious this person really didn't want to help us. Now, my father has been a repair technician and worked for an electrical company for many years before I was born. And he's also been in these neighborhoods enough to know how people get by without paying. Anyways, so he goes to the house, puts a piece of wire that connects the power main from the street to the house. In short, he set it up so he could steal unmetered power from the utilities company's street-side power supply. Now, my father isn't here to steal electricity, but he has seen it enough to know how it's done. After he's done, he tests that the power works and basically just turns on a light. He then dials up the person from the utilities company, and of course they don't answer, even though it's business hours. So he just leaves a message along the lines of, "Hey, don't bother with the meter, I found someone who got the lights back on. Not sure how, but we won't need your help anymore." Then hung up. 24 hours later, we go to the house and discover there's a brand new electric meter all set up with a nice little padlock too. The $5 of wire and stuff my dad used to bypass the meter was still usable, just thrown on the floor. What was nice is that since we didn't agree to any work by them, they set this whole thing up for free and had no ability to charge us for it. So we bypassed their ridiculous time frame and thousands they wanted to charge for the work needed. Alright everyone, that's it for today's video. I know my videos lately have been a little bit shorter, but that's because I'm working on an hour-long compilation that should be coming out tomorrow or the next day. So if you did like this video, then you'll definitely love that one, and I would love for you to subscribe if you haven't already and hit that notification bell so you know when it goes up. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. You guys are the best. I can't believe we're already at 1,200. What the heck? And I will see you tomorrow. Bye.